So often in life we hear about shenanigans within politics, but one of the things that perhaps doesn't get as much attention in the mainstream world as it could is the shenanigans that go on in a courtroom. In recent episodes, we've covered some killer tandems who have done the unthinkable to friends, lovers, and family, and we've even talked about two killers' desire to become a modern-day Bonnie and Clyde. This week, we're going to look at a case that is slightly different. This week's case seems to be a whole bunch of things, including killers killing other bad guys, and then two killers and their defense attorneys turning on one another repeatedly in a joint trial that was truly one for the ages. Hello, my name is Lance, and welcome to episode 136 of Gone But Never Forgotten. It's a dog-eat-dog world. The murder of Tyler Pratt. On February 28th of 2021, Oliver Carafa and Lucy Lee set up a meeting with two people that they had met before and who they had a business relationship with, Tyler Pratt and Jordan Romano. Both couples, as we will get into for the duration of this episode, had a checkered history and dabbled or full-blown swam in the waters on the wrong side of the tracks of the business world. The meeting was seemingly set up to further intertwine the two couples and their business relationship, but the truth would wind up being far more sinister at the meeting on that date and would cost one man his life, one unborn child their life, and very nearly one woman lost her life as well. This case recently finished up in court and certainly is not over, as one can assume based on the actions, words, and behaviors in court. There will be plenty of appeals within this case. As I'm sure that anyone listening to this podcast is aware, there is very much a business side of things like street crime, drug dealing, and theft that serves as a quote-unquote underbelly of society. But it certainly can be, and is, a very lucrative business. Tyler Pratt was originally from British Columbia, and he had made millions of dollars as an international drug dealer, among other things. His girlfriend, Jordan Romano, would even say in court that at one point, Tyler had made over $1 million in one day, selling Bolivian cocaine. For the purpose of this episode, I do want to leave out the fact that many podcasts and people have harped on, which is the fact that, as I said in the open, this is a case of bad people seemingly killing bad people, or Darwin's Law, as many people have said. Tyler was indeed a man who was rich because he was a businessman who made his money in ways that are illegal, but this is also a case that has to do with two human beings planning out the murder of two other human beings, which, for the purpose of this episode, is what I am going to focus on. Oliver and Lucy had met Tyler and Jordan in 2020, and court would hear that. Tyler, as I said, was a well-known man with a substantial amount of money, and Oliver being what I could call a criminal entrepreneur. The meeting was a match made in heaven. Oliver was known to have many different enterprises and schemes on the go at one time, and he was always hustling, and he was always looking to make as much money as he could. After meeting and earning some level of trust over time, Tyler agreed to invest $470,000 into an enterprise that Oliver was trying to get off the ground. The business venture was a personal protective equipment business, or PPE, that was run overseas and being helmed by Oliver. 2020, as you remember, was the very beginning of COVID, and Oliver was trying to get ahead of the curve for PPE in a form and fashion that seemed designed to make a lot of money very quickly. Tyler continued to live in British Columbia, while Oliver and Lucy lived in Toronto. It appears, based on everything that I could find, which of course is limited, that Oliver and Lucy did have the intentions of building their PPE business up and getting the money back for Tyler, plus profit. However, things appear to have not gone the way that Oliver had planned, and the business venture failed, meaning that not only did he not have profits to give to Tyler, but he also did not have Tyler's initial investment, that $470,000 to $480,000 to give back to him. As tends to be the case when someone floats a decent amount of money as an investment, Tyler started to get antsy, and he started to ask Oliver about his money. Oliver, unsure of what to do at first, stalled in any way that he could to put off a meeting and to put off admitting to Tyler that the business venture had failed and that he did not have any money for Tyler. Oliver believed that he could find a way to make the money in other ways so that he could ultimately pay Tyler back. There is little doubt that something that came out in the form of testimony was true at this point. There certainly was a part of Oliver, and perhaps Lucy as well, that was frankly scared to death of Tyler. As I said, there's no doubt that Tyler was a powerful man, and he had connections to all sorts of people who were a part of things like organized crime. And with that being said, he definitely had connections to people that could certainly have killed Oliver and Lucy if Tyler had wanted that done. We'll never know what Tyler's thoughts were or what his actions would have been if he was confronted with the fact that his money was gone. For me, much like most people listening, I would imagine, $480,000 is a lot of money. As an aside, if that's not a lot of money to you, maybe you and I could talk together in private about becoming close friends. As you can imagine, though, with this being a true crime podcast, there is of course a reason that I'm covering this case. Oliver decided that there was seemingly no way that he was ever going to be able to pay Tyler back the money that he owed him, and so Oliver came up with a plan. The plan was to lure Tyler and his girlfriend Jordan with the cover of a new business venture. That business venture was in the form of a warehouse. Oliver approached Tyler with the idea that he had found a perfect warehouse to use for a marijuana grow-op. The warehouse was located at 347 Arvin Avenue in Stony Creek, Ontario. This was enough to lure a business meeting again between the two couples. Oliver seemingly put a lot of thought into what he was going to do and how he believed he was going to cover his ass in what appeared to have been, and has been proven in court to be, a premeditated murder. Prior to the murder, Oliver and Lucy arranged for Lucy to switch SIM cards with a friend that was staying with the couple at their condo so that they would have an electronic alibi if their plan went awry enough for a police investigation and the police tried to track their cell phones. The couple believed that if the police ran Lucy's phone number, they would find that Lucy had been at the condo the entire time, and thus there would be no way to prove that they had been anywhere else. They sold this idea to their friend by telling the friend that they had a secret business meeting coming up, and that not even their family could know about what was going on, or even that they were at a meeting. The friend was told to respond to phone calls and text messages and to act through text as though they were Lucy, so that nobody would be the wiser that they were gone to any kind of meeting. Oliver and Lucy, though, certainly were not all that intelligent about hiding the fact that there was a plan in motion leading up to what ultimately did happen, because later in court it would be shown that Lucy and Oliver had texted about certain parts of their plan in the days leading up to the murder. At trial, though, as we will cover, Lucy said that she did not know about the murder in advance, and she had no idea why they had switched her SIM card with that of their friend. On February 28th of 2021, the meeting was to take place at the warehouse in Stony Creek, and the two couples did meet up. Tyler and Jordan, of course, were under the impression that the meeting was strictly a business meeting, with Tyler reportedly believing that it was regarding the warehouse, but also regarding the money that he had previously invested. Oliver and Lucy arrived at the warehouse driving an Audi Q5 that Oliver had purchased from a friend of his that was named Jamie Gutierrez on the very same day of the meeting. Oliver had purchased the vehicle from Jamie and already lined up the sale of the car so that it would be gone before anyone could find it if there were witnesses at the scene. Jordan and Tyler arrived in Jordan's Range Rover. Jordan and Lucy reported very different events of where Lucy was when everything went down, but I'm going to choose to report as fact what Jordan said happened. Under the circumstances, I believe that Jordan's version of events are more reliable. Jordan said that she and Lucy had retreated to the Range Rover in order to keep warm because the temperatures were frigid outside. Jordan was in the driver's seat and Lucy was in the passenger seat beside her. Jordan remembers in hindsight that Lucy seemed off that day, very nervous and skittish, and then she remembers Lucy getting out of the car rather quickly in hindsight and clearly making way for Oliver to take aim and shoot at Jordan inside of the car. Jordan was hit directly in the heart with one bullet, and Oliver missed with two other bullets. Oliver then turned his attention to Tyler, who Jordan tragically remembers hearing ask, "Oliver, what the F, bro?" And then Oliver shot Tyler, who was standing right beside him, gangland style, several times. Tyler was shot 6 times in total. 3 bullets went clean through his arm. 1 went through the back of his neck and out near his ear, and another was a grazed type of wound on his chin that may have also been caused by the same bullet that ultimately struck his chest. The bullet that hit Tyler's chest was the only one that hit soft tissue, but it also struck his left lung and then lodged itself in his back. That one was the fatal shot. Dr. Andrew Williams, a forensic pathologist, would later testify that Tyler would not have died instantly, but that it would have taken between several minutes and 1 hour for Tyler to die. Tyler would be found with 2.2 liters of blood inside of his left chest cavity. Oliver and Lucy then got Jordan out of the Range Rover and fled the scene, leaving Jordan behind with Tyler's lifeless body. Jordan, though seemingly unknown to Oliver and Lucy, was left behind, still alive, on the pavement. After Oliver and Lucy had been gone for a suitable amount of time, they believed that nobody else had heard the gunshots or witnessed the shooting because nobody had rushed to the scene, and so they returned to the scene and immediately they noticed that Jordan was no longer there. As you can imagine, that left Lucy and Oliver wondering what had happened, and video surveillance would later be found that showed the Range Rover circling the area and ultimately searching for Jordan. Lucy was even visible and recognizable in the shots. After they looked for Jordan for an hour, Oliver and Lucy decided that they should just stop looking and that they should cut their losses because they assumed that there was literally no chance that Lucy could have made it from their location to anyone or any place that would have been able to help her. It was, as mentioned, frigidly cold and the dead of winter, and they knew for a fact that she had been shot in the chest. Oliver and Lucy coldly retrieved and stole Tyler's and Jordan's cell phones and $20,000 in cash that Tyler had with him at the scene. Oliver and Lucy then fled the scene, and Jordan actually had managed, in no small miracle, to escape, and she would be found more than 1 hour later after the shooting, crawling on the road. Another woman who was passing by came across Jordan on her knees in the roadway, and when she asked what was wrong, Jordan told her that she needed help and that she had been shot. The woman remembers that Jordan's shirt was covered in blood. Ultimately, Jordan would get to a hospital and would get assistance, and miraculously, after being in a coma for 3 days, she survived. When she woke up, she remembered everything that had happened, and she told the police everything that she could. Jordan had lost so much. She had lost Tyler, and she had also lost a pregnancy. Jordan had been 13 weeks pregnant when she was shot. Meanwhile, Oliver and Lucy, after finding out that Jordan was still alive, followed through on their plans to sell the Audi. They also sold the Range Rover, and then dumped Lucy's Mercedes in Port Carling, Ontario, where police found the vehicle and a garbage bag filled with evidence from the scene, including bloody clothes, masks, and bullets that were stuffed into a trash bin. The pair then took a train to Montreal and boarded a flight to Europe. All of that happened within approximately 24 hours of Tyler's murder. After the testimony from Jordan, it was very clear to police who they were looking for, and they started contacting police from all over the world, especially Europe, in hopes of tracking the fugitive couple down. It took 3 months, but ultimately they did succeed, and both Oliver and Lucy were arrested in Budapest, Hungary. The Hamilton police actively thanked the Hungarian Fugitive Active Search Team for assisting with the case. The arrests took place in June of 2021, and Lucy would be returned to Canada on July 12th of 2021, not long after the arrests. Oliver, however, fought his extradition and was not returned to Canada until March 30th of 2022. The trial for Oliver Carafa and Lucy Lee finally got underway in early April of this year, 2024, and the trial was interesting. I don't want to say that it was a farce, but like I said in the open for this episode, it really was a bit of a clown show. Oliver and Lucy each were represented by different lawyers, and they did not present a united effort in defense of the charges that came against them. As a matter of fact, much of the trial saw the lawyers for Lucy and Oliver at odds far more than they were together on anything. Both Oliver and Lucy were charged with first-degree murder and attempted murder. In the end, the trial itself wound up taking nearly 7 weeks to complete, and many believed that in the end the trial and the convictions, or lack thereof, would come down to whether the jury believed Lucy more or Jordan more, as both women did testify as a part of the trial. The prosecution's case circled around the fact that they believed that Oliver had planned the murders and that Lucy had been complicit in the planning, the murder, and the attempted murder. They believed that that was backed up by the SIM card transfer, the security footage, and the shenanigans that encircled the vehicles that were at the scene of the murder that day. It certainly looked to anyone following along that this was a well-planned and premeditated murder, and thus probably an open and shut case. The defense for Oliver said that the murder was motivated, though, by panic and was not previously planned. They presented that Oliver had panicked because he knew that Tyler was a drug dealer, and he knew that Tyler had ties to organized crime, and thus presented that the shooting had occurred because of fear about how Tyler would react when he found out that his money was gone. The defense for Lucy presented that Lucy had been completely unaware of Oliver's intentions and that she had missed many red flags along the way to the murder. Her defense team actually presented the defense that Lucy was not intelligent enough to have helped to plan the murder or the events precluding and after the murder, nor was she smart enough to have recognized what was going on until it was happening. They presented that Lucy did not know what was happening until the shots were being fired. Lucy spent a week testifying, and she said that she had driven her husband Oliver to the scene on that day, but that she too was under the belief that it was just a business meeting, and she was completely unaware that there was any murder plan. She also said that she only ran away with Oliver after the murder had taken place because Oliver had impressed upon her that both of them were in danger, and that the police would be coming for both of them, and that associates of Tyler would be coming for both of them, because they were both there when Tyler had been murdered and Jordan had been shot. Lucy also testified that while the two were in jail in Hungary, Oliver had confessed to her that he had planned out the entire attack and murder because he was afraid of Tyler, and he was afraid that Tyler would kill him, his loved ones, or both when Tyler found out that he had lost his investment money. Oliver had told Lucy that he was scared to death to tell Tyler that the PPE business had failed. Lucy further testified that while they were in Hungary, Oliver had tried to pressure Lucy to fight her extradition, and he had tried to convince her that they should work together and coordinate their defense together with the same lawyers, and that they needed to get their stories straight. Lucy said that the two had been able to talk through a window in the Hungarian jail, and Lucy said that Oliver's pressure did not stop there. She said that Oliver had used a cell phone that he had access to in Hungary after she had been extradited to coordinate a three-way call with another woman at Vanier Center for Women, where Lucy was being held. She said that Oliver had pressured her multiple times to fire her lawyer, and she said that her lawyer had also been threatened by Oliver when he was still in jail in Hungary. Lucy backed up her defense team when she said on the stand that she was the stupidest person in the room, and perhaps the stupidest person in the world, for getting involved with Oliver and for running away with Oliver. As I said, Lucy gave a differing version of events from what Jordan had said, and Lucy testified that she was on the other side of the warehouse, more than 100 meters away from the murder when it had taken place. Jordan presented on the stand the series of events that I relayed earlier. What I did find interesting about this case was that Lucy was being charged with first-degree murder as an aider to the planning and the murder itself. If the jury had sided with Lucy and her defense team and believed that Lucy had no knowledge about the murder before it was taking place, she would have been not guilty, and she would have not been able to be charged with a lesser charge because there was actually no physical evidence that Lucy had anything to do with the actual act of murder. In his closing arguments for the trial, prosecutor Mark Dean said that Jordan, Tyler, and Jordan's unborn baby were the victims of this crime, and thankfully, Jordan survived so that justice could be served. Otherwise, it was likely that Oliver and Lucy would have evaded police completely. He said, quote, "It's because of her strength and courage that you members of the jury have the chance to see the real Oliver Carafa and Lucy Lee and see past all of the lies and corruption and hold them accountable for what they did." Unquote. Oliver himself chose not to testify as a part of the trial. However, through his lawyer's closing statements, he admitted that he had shot Tyler and shot Jordan. Oliver's lawyer urged the jury to find his client guilty of only second-degree murder, which of course comes with a life sentence, just like first-degree murder, but does not carry a mandatory 25-year sentence before parole eligibility. Oliver's lawyer said in his closing statements that Lucy and Lucy's lawyers had essentially also put Oliver and the entire defense team on trial by taking aim at them repeatedly and helping the prosecution more than their own defense in doing so. Lucy's lawyers said that Lucy was a victim of Oliver, just like everyone else in the case, because she was led into the murder and brought to the murder scene against her knowledge, and then led to believe that she was a part of everything, and should also run to try and escape facing repercussions for the murder and attempted murder. As much as was seen in that courtroom, though, there was actually so much more that went on behind the scenes that the jury did not see or know about. First and foremost, there were actually 2 mistrial applications that were made by Oliver's attorneys that would ultimately be rejected by Superior Court Justice Harrison Arrell. The first mistrial application came at the end of testimony that was given by a friend of Oliver's named Jamie Gutierrez. Jamie, as you may recall, was the friend that had sold Oliver the Audi on the day of the murder. With Jamie on the stand, Lucy's lawyer pounced when the topic of Oliver's last name came up. You see, many people, including Jordan, only knew Oliver as Oliver Knox, a last name that he reportedly used frequently and was his last name on social media. Lucy's lawyer made a passing comment that he thought that he knew why Oliver would use a different last name. He was clearly leading the witness because he wanted to try to get something out that had been omitted from the trial and not presented to the jury. The fact that he was trying to get out was that Oliver had actually already been sentenced previously to 5 years in prison in 2014 after he was convicted of impaired driving causing death and criminal negligence causing death. Oliver was only 19 years old at the time and only a G2 driver, which is the first phase of being able to drive on one's own in Ontario within the graduated licensing system. Oliver's lawyer immediately objected to the statement, and no response was ever given in front of the jury, thus leaving the accusation from Lucy's lawyer hanging there in the courtroom. Oliver's lawyer argued that the bombshell being dropped in court had introduced prejudicial evidence and bias into the courtroom and against Oliver without the facts being properly vetted into court. He said that the only remedy for that was to have a mistrial and then sever the 2 cases against Oliver and Lucy. The judge, though, as I said, dismissed the mistrial and the severance applications and told the jury that any allegations of bad character from the past that came from Lucy and her team against Oliver could not be used against Oliver to infer that he was guilty of the new charges that were being brought against him. The second mistrial application came again from Oliver's lawyer, when he argued that the cumulative effect of bad character evidence, including the drunk driving crash and other statements from Lucy, were going to work against his client. This application for mistrial, though, was also dismissed by the judge. Outside of the courtroom, Lucy's lawyer also presented to the judge that on March 21st, 2024, Oliver had sent an associate to Vanier to visit Lucy, and that Lucy had accepted the visit because she had been expecting a visit from him, her lawyer. Lucy's lawyer, O'Connor, then alleged that the associate had advised Lucy that Oliver was incredibly upset at her because she had frozen him out and cut off all communication with him, and the associate had also said that that was unacceptable. Further to that, the associate of Oliver told Lucy allegedly that if she continued to freeze out Oliver, there would be problems. Further to that, O'Connor also alleged that there had been an attempt on Lucy's life in the Hamilton Wentworth Detention Center, where she had been beaten after a correctional officer had told inmates that she was a baby killer. Behind those closed doors, Oliver's lawyer stated that if there was any suggestion in court that Lucy had been the victim of improper conduct at the hands of Oliver, that would allow for him to present to court letters that had been sent to Oliver by Lucy after their arrest that showed Lucy asking for the two to get back together. The jury was also not made aware that Lucy had actually been granted bail initially, and that she had been placed under strict house arrest. Lucy was rearrested when she allegedly breached her release conditions by attending a social engagement, and when she allegedly had contact with an unauthorized person. The bail had been granted in January of 2022, and she was arrested again on May 29, 2023, after her fail to comply a week earlier. So, as you can see, there was a lot going on in the courtroom and behind closed doors, with a lot of slinging going on in every direction. I actually can certainly see why Oliver's lawyer was upset at the fact that Lucy's lawyer continuously seemed to be trying to throw Oliver under the bus. It was an interesting tactic, seemingly to distance his client from Oliver, and also to try and make her appear as more of a victim than a co-accused. Ultimately, though, none of those tactics worked. The jury took less than a day to deliberate, and they returned with a verdict of guilty for Oliver and for Lucy on the charges of murder and the charges of attempted murder. Before sentencing, in a victim impact statement, Jordan said that she suffers from PTSD and nerve damage following surgery, a coma, and of course the loss of a loved one and a child. She said that she has fake bones in her upper chest and that her mom literally had to hold her body together with a pillow for 3 months anytime that Jordan needed to cough or sneeze. Jordan said that while many tried to point as Tyler as a scary monster who would have killed Lucy and Oliver if he was given the chance, it was truly Lucy and Oliver who were the scary monsters. Jordan would go on to say that even though there was no amount of money that was worth murder and throwing one's life away, doing so over $480,000 was truly pathetic. Tyler's sister said in an impact statement that when she had last spoken to Tyler, he'd been excited at the new business prospects with Oliver and Lucy, and he had even described them as great and fast friends that he had been lucky to meet over the years. She had been waiting for Tyler to call her and update her after his trip to Ontario, but she had received a call instead from their father, saying that her brother, who she remembered as funny and protective, had been murdered. Judge Harrison Arnell would say that Tyler's murder was an outright execution by two people who were solely motivated by unparalleled greed. He said, quote, "It is difficult to imagine a more calculated and planned murder as conducted by these two individuals," unquote. Both Oliver Carafa and Lucy Lee were given life sentences for their murder convictions with no chance of parole for 25 years, and they also received 15 years concurrent for attempted murder. When the sentences were announced, cheers erupted in the courtroom, and neither Oliver nor Lucy showed any emotion as the verdict was read out or the sentence. Tyler Pratt is remembered by his family as a man who was loving and who cared about anyone that was close to him. He was described as a protective father, brother, and son, and someone who put his children above everything else. Jordan Romano said that her desire to speak the truth was strong and that her mental and physical recovery is still ongoing. She said that her scars, though, are a daily reminder to her that she survived something that was meant to destroy her. So, while this is certainly a case that is looked at by many as bad guys killing bad guys, I think that lost in the narrative is that a man who worked hard, albeit on the wrong side of the law, to support his family, Jordan, and his lifestyle, did have his life taken in an absolute gangland style, and Jordan almost lost her life in the same way. Thankfully, Jordan did survive, as others have said, because otherwise two killers would likely still be out on the streets today. I'm reminded of Proverbs chapter 12, verse 26, which says, "The righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray." This is something that I've had to learn in my own life and apply to people that have been a part of my life. You do need to choose your friends wisely, for oftentimes when you wind up with the wrong friends, it really and truly can lead you astray from the path that God wants for you in your life. As we see here, money can truly be the root of some very evil trees that ultimately can lead to awful times for any of us, or even worse. Do your best out there to do what is right and to choose the right people to associate with and to leave the world around you in better shape everywhere that you go. I'll close the episode as I always do by saying that I hope that the next week finds you and yours well, and that you do your best to always be better. Please reach out on social media if you have questions, concerns, or comments, and please rate the show, follow the show, and come on over to Patreon for our new patron-only episodes and support the show. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you again next week.